Business at Town Hall or Human Services in the coming weeks will need to return to wearing masks, at least for now. The town on Monday implemented a mask mandate until further notice that will impact visitors and staff at both Stonington Town Hall, in Stonington Borough, and the Stonington Human Services Department on South Broad Street. Health officials confirm Rhode Island has moved into the high rate of coronavirus transmission. The state now has a rate of more than 103 new confirmed cases per 100,000 people over the past 7 days. The health department also reports about 450 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 over the past 3 days, while the 7-day new case average rose to 156. That's the highest since mid-May. More than 659,000 people now have been fully vaccinated in Rhode Island.
Managing Director of Paragon Trust Company and tax and private client practitioner, joins us to bring a common sense approach to money in a world of total insanity. Let's welcome Tony D'Angelo.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. Every Tuesday morning at this time, you get a chance to hear from our pal Tony D. By the way, throughout the course of a show, you may hear the sage from Stanford, and that too is Tony D. If you don't recognize that voice, I mean, certainly got a recognizable voice, and every once in a while we play those 60-second clips, and they're a lot of fun and some, an inside look at some of the things that Tony's thinking very entertaining. But Tony, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Lee Elci. Good morning to the kids, and proud to be among everybody.
So, it's funny. I didn't mean to start the show and sort of going side by side with what you wanted to talk about. I started out with civil disobedience, and you actually blew a gasket the other day about civil.
Certainly did. And, as I always say every show, I'm really proud to be among everybody, and I am. And I blew a gasket last week at a political figure who was, condescending. There were several instances, one of whom was condescending to the listeners on this show, in my perception. And there's a lot of people out there, sort of pretending to be in self-interest. And when I hear somebody talk down to either what I might be doing, what others on the show might be doing, and particularly to the listeners, I tend to take umbrage. And this one particular comment got me, and it was, the people on this show do not have an appreciation for the finer points of what I do. And I flipped out at this person, not going to say the sex, not going to say irrelevant and immaterial, but I just want to make one thing very clear. It is people like me, it is people like others who really work beyond and behind a $72 million spin contract in this state. Let me repeat that. A $72 million spin contract in the state and counting, and are working to bring facts and information. And I'm no longer going to be polite about this. I'm going to come right after people, and if necessary, I will call their names, because, frankly, I've had it. We've played political and social holier than thou. We have to respect whosoever it is in the state forever and ever, and we are in one stinking mess, and it's largely because of this fact. And remember one thing. Information defeats ignorance. That's why I'm here. That's why others are here. And I'm not going to be easy on this stuff anymore, Lee Elci. I'm just not.
I'm trying to figure who that was, and it's escaping me. So I'll have to get that off the air from you. Who said those nasty things?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a nasty it was a thing of, it was a legislative figure that came out and said, well, I'm doing a lot with statistics, and that's, not interesting to the people of this show. It's very interesting to me.
Sure.
It's highly interesting to me.
Absolutely. All right, well, listen, I'm glad, and we're going to hold you to that, because nobody does a better job of holding their feet to the fire.
And I don't want to say the name right
That's
now,
fine.
because I want to see better performances from these people.
All right.
Don't come down here and talk down to us. Don't come down here and treat us like, they use the Sinatra term that we're cretin as goons. We're not.
Yeah, agreed.
We're not.
All right, you want to shift gears to crime or polls?
Yeah, and these people who are telling you that, they've got your best interests at heart, and, they've got everything in the bag, and, we've got to trust them, and we've got to take, and not be, quote-unquote, disobedient and not question. and I'm going a little bit off my usual script here, but it's just so typically Connecticut. This whole thing with the youth crime, which frankly I've read as much as I can. I've read the whole situation of the Democrat Party saying well we're really either not going to do it or we need social solutions, and I've read the Republican solutions that are really to me are just using the same system and trying to tweak it and make it a little bit better. And we still have a godforsaken mess, and it's just that when or where in this state are people going to realize that the system's not a solution for anything? The system's what creates the greater problem. Both of these things are kind of pushing and pulling, and nothing's really happening. Now, if I address this more to Republicans than I do to Democrats who are just way off the other side of the ship, you're the closest thing we have in the state to anything resembling sanity. And if we've got something where we're so far off, you've got to create a brighter line. Now, this is my concept, and this is only because I've been in private business for close to maybe 35 years. I don't have a checkbook where I can just hire bureaucrat after bureaucrat after bureaucrat after bureaucrat. When I have a problem, I've got to find a solution. I've got to find it quickly. I do not have an inexhaustible supply of money. So let me give you a concept just in terms of this whole thing of, why this doesn't work and all this other kind of stuff. I have a very, and this is a concept. It's a very simple 3 strikes rule for youth crime and dealing with, things efficiently. The first time a kid messes up, let's let him go and spend 3 nights in an emergency room. No phone, no nothing. Just sit there and watch to see what happens. Watch the destruction taking place. And if you do this, and if you're successful, we'll give you, and you're staying clean for 3 months. No record, no nothing. Just okay. You've learned your lesson. Now, not everybody's going to learn the lesson. We didn't talk about this last week, to the degree that time would allow. But I did go back and I watched that original Scared Straight that was made about 45 years ago with Peter Falk in Rahway, New Jersey. And if we had a group of people who had been through the systems, or have a group of people, who would be sort of a, more or less like a play group, like the Scared Straight group was. And, really, okay, you don't believe that this stuff in the emergency rooms going on at night is real? Go to the prison and spend a day and, kind of be talked to, and also have this group go out and talk to the schools. And talk to people that are at risk. You want to be like me? This is what it's like,
Right.
Now, this is all very low cost, but I believe it's very effective. And if you fail that, run that out like about 6 months. If you fail that and you do it again, well, guess what? I guess you're predisposed to be a criminal. And if you really feel that way about it, let's take all these other offenses and attribute them to you at number 3. And, you can't really be rehabilitated if you've seen all that and it doesn't make any impression to you. I'm not saying this is a perfect solution, but, man, you've got to do something a lot more acute and a lot more creative. And really, don't give me a systemic solution where the system has put Connecticut into the place of being a national laughingstock. I mean, I'm being very polite. I could say something much worse.
Right.
For years and years and years.
You mentioned Scared Straight. I went back and watched a good chunk of that myself after that conversation we had that day, and it reminded me as a kid, my parents made me watch that. They sat me down and said, "You're watching this," and at first I kind of chuckled because they were swearing, and and after a while, man, I'll tell you, Tony, that's 40 years ago. I still remember that and thinking about that and thinking about some of the things that those men said. It put chills down my spine. So yeah,
watch it now, Lee Elci.
Absolutely.
Watch it now.
I totally agree with you. I did. I watched a good chunk of it about 5 or 6 days ago, and I said to myself, it brought up all these old memories of what what I went through, what my parents made me sit through. And I was like, wow, this is actually impactful and meaningful, and we should do things like this. I want to just say this too. I saw a legislator, Tony, on television, or it was a legislator, I think, maybe the comment was by a high-ranking police officer, but in the end, it's the same. They said that, oh, well, this isn't really that big a deal with the kids. There's only like 100 kids causing all these issues. That's all it is, like 100 kids. The kids that are running around in bicycles in New Haven and stealing cars and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't give a damn if it's 1, 2, 5 people. We need to put a hold on that. We need to fix this situation in the state of Connecticut and across the country. And we need to be tough about it.
And it's like if your boat is going to the rocks, you don't kind of like turn it over a little bit. You jerk the sucker away from the rocks. I mean, it's like the Connecticut solution for a bureaucratic boondoggle is another bureaucrat. It's inane. I talk to people all over the country on what I'm doing every single day, and I mean, Connecticut is really, they laugh at us. I mean, we get our media spun. We don't get what others are thinking of us. But man, oh man, it's terrible.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is something, then again, I think it's fixable. Like, I put it this way. You want to put these programs in place. You want to throw some more money at it. I'll sit down and have that conversation with you when it comes to these kids. You want to figure out some way to kind of reach these kids, the kids that are coming, these 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. I don't know if it's too late, but right now I need to worry about the community first. I need to make sure these kids or these young men are off the streets. You want to start?
Well, yeah, and to be fair to every single person out there. I thought about this last night. Stanford, when I was growing up, had a very active police athletic league. What's that? When's the last time you heard that term?
Huh.
I mean, because we saw the cops like from we were 6 years old right through college, and if we messed up, it's like, D'Angelo, I know you, I know your father, I know your mother, you don't belong here, and it was the thing. They were doing sports with us, they were doing things with us. We saw them as people,
right.
And it's like, this whole enemy thing, and this is where, do police departments today do that? I haven't heard of a PAL in like 45 years.
Right. All right, before we run out of time, you wanted to touch on fatherlessness too.
Well, and this is really the root cause. When we keep talking around the solutions and we keep talking around every single thing, what did our lovely legislature do? These are the people who are talking down to us. We passed baby bonds this year.
Oh.
There was no outcry from the Republican Party. There was no nothing. It was, well, we can't afford it. And it's like you're encouraging, if you don't say what's actually taking place here, encouraging out of wedlock births. You're enabling, it was really a better word, fatherlessness. And unless you start to get to the root cause of things, which is really, boys, young men growing up without male influences, this is not a situation that's going to be better. Again, we need more, we have to be truthful about these solutions, because otherwise we're going to entirely lose this state if we haven't already.
The number of fatherless kids in folks of color's households in urban settings is astronomical. Folks wouldn't even, it's 80%, and folks don't, or high 70s, and people don't believe it. And it's just, you can't have a society or a solid community if there's no dads in the home. It's just impossible.
It's absolutely impossible. And the thing is, you don't fix poverty and recidivism by throwing money at a situation. And I speak to better-thinking people whom I think are better-thinking people in politics. It's like, if you don't start thinking that you're almost becoming as useless as whatever in the heck else we're seeing. And, I ain't going to put up with it, and I ain't going to be talked down to, Lee Elci, and neither is anybody else on the show.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you're standing up. By the way, we're getting a message from a father of a cop. The New Britain Police Department has a large, active PAL.
God bless them.
Yeah, as well as the Midnight Basketball League. So there you go. Some folks still have it.
Kept D'Angelo on the streets and put me on the radio with you. How about that?
All right, Tony. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, take care.
All right, kid. You have a good one. Tony D. Every Tuesday joins us to talk about a number of different issues, and today is we're on the gamut from being ticked off to